have the pleasure of being joined by Besart. How do you say your last name?
Çopa.
Çopa. A student in the SFS, majoring in...
I wanted to do STIA, it was very cool, but decided to change it last semester because of the CS classes. Didn't want to take the computer science, C++ classes.
I would expect you to be taking that.
When I came to Georgetown, that was like the main thing I wanted to do. But I think Georgetown has like has a problem right now with offering only C++ courses, which I know you're taking a few of them.
My GPA is just...
I think, the way I describe it sometimes to my friends, it's like if you take C++, it's like you're taking the Latin of computer science languages. In reality, most of us just need like a language that we can use, like Python or even like SQL, like basic languages that have more utility. But anyway, but the SFS was super cool, and they allowed me to change in my last semester.
Which is very surprising.
It is. They're nice. The deans are awesome.
I remember that I started my comp-sci journey learning like HTML and CSS just so that I could gradually move on to Python. Because I think that's important, like learning HTML maybe a little bit, or at least knowing how to read it first. So you're majoring in IPOL. And you're 24.
Senior citizen. I went to high school in Switzerland, where you also went for some time.
Les Uns. You went to Les Uns. Yep. You were in the mountains.
In the mountains, in the Alps. It was incredible. I think, after high school, I always thought I wanted to do like public sector, international development work. So spring after high school, I got into this program in the Council of Europe. It's a very cool policy-oriented program.
In Brussels?
Strasbourg. The Council of Europe is always confused with the European Council.
Sorry. Dumb.
Georgetown.
I
think the lesson from that was that as beautiful as these organizations are and as exciting as they are sometimes and necessary to some extent, the work was very slow, and like the results of your effort were not as tangible. And so, anyway, after that, went to NYU, was going to do their honors program, 2 years in Abu Dhabi, 2 years in New York.
That's amazing. That's super fun.
Very cool. Some of the smartest people I've ever met.
Did you decide to take the gap year because you wanted to, like, live and travel, or because you found these jobs?
It was definitely because of the Council of Europe thing. So, like, my philosophy with gap, and, like, I come from Albania, so, like, Albanian parents are not, like, the most, like, oh, yeah, like, take a year off.
I think it's the best way to go about your career is by intertwining education and professional experiences as much as you can. Yeah. If I were to get a really good internship this summer and have the option to prolong it in like a firm that's respected or in a firm that I'm really passionate about, I would totally take like a semester off or even a year off. It's just so fulfilling to work and then go back and like take time and really appreciate the classes that you're taking and what you're learning. Yeah. How was that experience for you? Like how did it contribute to like your mentality and your work ethic?
I've always loved school. Like I've never, even when I took my gap year, I was never like, oh, I need to find a way to leave school forever. And so my first internship was in Silicon Valley. I decided that I wanted to work in tech. And so that 1 year at NYU, Abu Dhabi, was super formative because, I decided I didn't really want to work in international development and the UN stuff. And I think school is like a low-risk environment where you have like the luxury to just think and read and, of course, hang out with like cool people and like make friends and have fun. But between being a full-time employee and being a student, one of these gives you much more flexibility than the other. So for me, that 1 year at NYU was like super important to like actually, have an early life crisis and think about what I wanted to do next. And then,
so I'm not the only one with the existential crisis.
No, it's always ongoing. And I think it's good. It's like as long as the risks are low, I think it's good to be always wondering if you're doing the right thing, instead of like deciding early on and then regretting it and then coping for the rest of your life.
I personally regret not taking STIA. You got invited to speak at a conference in Berlin. Was that the European Council?
That was the UN Internet Governance. So that was after I had left NYU, after sort of Logitech interested me in the Bay Area. And then after that, while in the Bay Area, Forrest Gumped into this cybersecurity company that had just raised like their series, I think B at the time. They just raised like $250 million. And
he's like an expert in venture capital.
The chief strategy officer at the time was like, we have a bunch of projects that we need help with. If you'd like to come on board, you should join. And I think at the time, I was like still very much confused, but I loved tech. I think the internship at Logitech showed me that like different from perhaps like the public sector work in tech, your work will have like a very immediate result that is measurable. So what you're doing either works or it doesn't, and you're going to find out because you either have users, your product or service is selling, or it's not. So I really liked that, and I wanted to keep going at it. And this cybersecurity company, that was going to be my first full-time job. At the time, I was 20, I think, 20 or 19, and my calculus was that I was learning so much in that environment, and every day was like, it was insane. It was like psychedelic. I describe it sometimes because I would go to the office and I was like, holy shit, this is like real life. Like this is like real work. I'm not like pretend working anymore. So ended up staying there for 2 years.
What made you come back?
It's a good question. I think my boss said this one thing on the first day of work where he said, you're not going to know what you're really doing within like the first year of work. And I was like, that's nuts. I was like, how? So I was like a full year to realize. I was like, I'm sure this is not nuclear science. But it's true. I think only after the first year of full-time work, I truly understood like how the bread is made at a startup company. You start understanding like what the different verticals do at a company. Long story short, for me, like the learning that was happening in that 1 year, in the first year was immense, and in the second year it was even more immense. And the second year was the time when I started thinking, I was like, oh, I'm actually realizing that I would actually love to be even closer to starting a startup rather than just being an operator. Our company got acquired in 2020, so my options were join another startup or a VC.
Which company? Pango.
Pango. So the company was called, when I joined, was called Anchor Free, and we got acquired by a private equity group or a holding company. And then the company was then sold to like another larger tech company called Aura in Boston. Super amazing company, have built like huge suite with cybersecurity products.
Insane.
Yeah, very, very cool stuff. But I was like extremely lucky to have Forrest Gumped into this like startup, because otherwise I would have never had the idea of like how startups and venture capital work.
Let's talk a little bit about that. You started this app, this Chrome extension more like called Chestr. Can you talk to us about how, just the general idea, how you turned it from a concept into an actual execution?
Yeah, designed this extension on Figma where the idea was like you see a product, you click it, it saves into your profile. And then I use Honey a lot for finding coupons and discounts. So I was like, it would be very cool if I save things, and if there's a discount, I just get a notification. So that's how the idea of Chestr started. I partnered with one of my friends. We built an MVP.
Did you code it?
No, there was Nico, was one of my friends. He was he was like my partner in the beginning. I was very lucky to have found like a co-founder in the technical side. So we built it, and it was very exciting. I think the main point with any of these ideas is like I needed for the thing to be useful to me. Like I don't believe in like building startups because you've made like a business model where 150 million people are interested in composting, and therefore I'm going to start a composting company, which is like annual thing at every East Coast startup competition, it seems to be like.
Is it a trend?
Composting, I think, is like a meme.
There was this big entrepreneur that said, if I see one more food delivery company pitch, I will literally leave the room.
A lot of like traditional business schools, like they teach like the model, the predictions, whatever. I think that if you don't build something that you aggressively want to use /use, then you're wasting your time. Like for Chestr, when we talk with investors right now, I say that they're like, okay, what's the worst case scenario with this company? What's the best case scenario? Best case scenario, I always say like, oh, we're going to build like the first social e-commerce platform in the United States where shopping is truly social because you're seeing what people are saving from around the web, your friends, influencers. You can comment on the things that your friends are buying and stuff like that. The worst case scenario is that it's just me and like 1,000 other users that use it. But personally, I think there's no worst case scenario, because if I build a product that I'm actually using and that I find useful in my everyday life, then like I'm kind of, like for me, it's the best case scenario. Like I had an idea and we build it and I use it.
It made your life easier. So it's a win-win. No, and appealing to that need is very, very important.
And, there's, I think for us, when we had the idea, our main priority was to like just build it as quickly as possible, and put it in front of real users as quickly as possible. So with Chestr, like we posted on like male fashion advice and female fashion advice on Reddit, and that's how we got like our 100-something installs. And I think the most exciting part in the product is when we get these emails where people are like, someone just like emailed us this morning. It was like, hey, are you planning to release an Android app to like save things from mobile?
Walk me through that process, please.
I was very lucky. I worked at a VC firm last summer. I was in there. They were working on releasing like a tech publication, and so it was like very cool. I got to work with writing with like pieces written by some of like the top entrepreneurs in the Bay Area. I think when I started Chestr, I also had like the luck of having a lot of mentors at Andreessen Horowitz. Cool firm, great people. And they, when you start an idea, like the idea of venture capital is like super connected to vanity. Stamp of approval, you want to have the, we raised $200K, $1 million, $5 million from like XYZ VCs. But it's also, I think like the mature way of looking at it is that every time you raise money, you're very much giving part of your company. So the vanity lasts 2-3 weeks. People say, congrats, cool, very cool, but nothing matters unless like you're building a product that users want, not that VCs want. Nothing matters if like your product is not like expanding very quickly. The way that this very cool investor that I like said it, he said, you should be able to do as much as possible with as little money as possible. We got our first investment offer in September of last year.
Did you reach out for it? Because you told me you went through like the several rounds. Can you explain that?
If you start an early stage company, like your options are, there's 3 options really. Like you raise pre-seed money from a traditional pre-seed venture capital firm. So this look like anything between like 150K to 500K, usually for anything between 6.5 to 10%. You can do that. You can go through an accelerator, the most famous one being Y Combinator, and there's a bunch of other ones. The benefit of an accelerator is that you get like more hands-on mentorship, and there's a cohort. Option 3, you just completely raise from angel investors. So this is like private individuals. You can reach out, and you can design the contract and the deal however you want. Our main priority still remains like accelerators. So we want to have a cohort so I can get to know other founders who are going through the same experience. It's like some VCs have like an application where they like drop your pitch deck, copy paste your LinkedIn and your co-founder, and like if we like you, we'll reach out. People like Trey Stevens, who are also like a part of our alumni in the venture capital firm. Grace at Andreessen Horowitz was a marketing partner. She was also a Hoya. So I think the Georgetown network in tech and startups is perhaps not as large as like some of the other schools, but I found it to be extremely helpful to my company.
Something that Georgetown Disruptive Tech, which I'm in, is attempting to do right now is create like a platform of that network. So like a visualized platform, even if it's just like an Excel sheet starting off, because you always start off small and then you like build it into an interactive thing. And so we're getting like this whole like a list of people in the tech world and building like a platform where like we're all connected with each other.
It's like a pain point of every type of organization is like organizing their networks and alumni, and there's like a graveyard of startups that the whole proposition is like how to truly you like make the best use out of your alumni network, be it a school, university. There needs to actually be a team of people whose like main job is to make sure that these connections are happening. I think the extent to which a digital platform can like foster that is always limited.
I think you did this in the OSCE and a bit in Citibank, if I'm not mistaken. You entered investigations within Citi's anti-money laundering data intelligence team, and then analyzed darknet illicit drug trading patterns. Can you like delve into that a little bit?
So this was during my gap year. I was interning at the OSCE in Vienna for the Albanian mission. And the way that the OSCE is structured is that, you know, they have their major sessions, which have some theme that has been set up in the year. It's like the annual themes or whatever. And then they have this like side meetings on like very specific niche topics. So one of the meetings I saw at the time was on the dark web, and this was at the time
Fascinating.
Yeah, I know, and I was like, nothing sounds more intriguing than.
Do you know the iceberg scheme? That's like the most common scheme.
Yeah.
So was it darknet specifically, or is that just like a?
I think at the conference they were using it as like an inclusive term for anything that's on the Tor browser.
Oh my God, Tor! Wow, throwback. Because I fully tried to get in. Like I fully I got this like weird like unknown computer when I was like 15, and I started trying to like
It was cool. Yeah, it was very fun. You know, I was definitely intrigued by the feelings around it, like how this like secret thing. At the time, Ukraine had just been hit by a hack attack. It was called Petya, if I'm not mistaken. And so this, I think it was like this CIA agent was at the OSCE. He gave us this very cool presentation where he was like, it had visualized all the different Bitcoin wallets that had sent money to like the hacker to like unblock their computer.
What year was this?
This was 2017.
So it had just gotten started.
Yeah. And Bitcoin at the time, my biggest regret is that I didn't buy Bitcoin when I was there. The one thing that I realized from that little research that I did was that one of the main use cases was for illicit drug trading and for like war weapons, and like, you know, Afghanistan was like the biggest. That's how I learned that Afghanistan was the biggest exporter of like heroin, because they have the poppy flowers there and like nut stuff. And I prepared this report, and I was like, it got sent to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Albania. I still think it's like a very fascinating, unexplored world, and it has like, you know, I think it's intriguing because it has this like sense of exploration that was present, I think, in the internet in the 90s. Like a lot of people talk about like the days of the early internet where like each blog site was like a different world and you could like go around.
It's weirdly like archaic if you think about it. Yeah. It's like super hidden and super high tech, but at the same time super old school. Yeah. It's really cool. You worked a lot with data visualization and just the future of big data right at the start. Yeah. So how do you think it has developed, and do you think that there's a future? Data
as a field is always like growing, and it's like kind of funny because different people understand very different things by the concept of data analytics. You know, you can have like someone doing like advanced machine learning, and you can have someone looking at Excel sheets. Exactly. And they're both sort of in the data field. I think one thing that stands true always is that analytics and data will always be like the most important unit in almost all organizations, because that's how you measure like your impact, and you can only achieve really what you can measure. So in tech, that became super relevant because tech gives you the ability to measure things in great detail like never before. We have like heat maps on our website. We can see every click that every person from everywhere makes on the website.
Elon was saying, Elon, my friend.
Our friend Elon. We say hello to Elon.
Our friend Elon was saying was that the computational power between computers is so much more advanced than our computational, like our way of communicating with computers, because we communicate with like devices to the as fast as we can type on them, or as fast as we can record a voice message. So with Neuralink and with these new like sort of cognitive installments, that would increase it.
Yeah.
And that would open up new opportunities.
There's like two ways to see it. Every new tech. There's like the Black Mirror,
Oh my God,
the Black Mirror bias, or like the Black Mirror fallacy, where you see a phone and you say, okay, this will destroy society and modern democracies. Or you see it and you say, well, like every tool ever in the history of humankind, like there's going to be people that are going to misuse it. But you have to believe that we have the systems in place in modern societies where we can control and limit the risks of any device. I think things like Neuralink, if you tell most people right now in the street where it's like, you're going to have a chip attached to your brain, they're like, no, this is crazy. Like, I would never do that. I think our kids will be probably one of the first generations where like that's going to be normal, because if you can have something that it doesn't like take over your agency, it just enhances it and makes it faster. Like, I think that's what's going to happen. Tech is going to make our lives like just way easier. It's not going to like take over.
Something that is really good about these preventative ads and just all these documentaries just highlighting the social ethical concerns that come with technology is that they remind us of them.
It's great. It's like one of the best trends I think in the past few years is that, yeah, it has become tech ethics has become more of an institution. I think, again, as with most things, there's going to be actors that do a better job than others. But in general, I agree that, certain media works, The Great Hack comes to mind. I think there's some deficiencies in their thesis, but overall, good message to like hold tech companies responsible.
And with that, I just want to thank you so much for coming here and sharing. I think we got really nerdy and really geeky and really in the nitty gritty, but I think it's good to do that sometimes.